Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a video review. And for this review, I will be taking a look at Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, a game that was originally released on the Wii back in 2010 and also on the 3DS back in 2013 for the Nintendo Switch. Also, you could be playing it on the Switch too. Apologize for this very late review. You know, a lot of things happen and everything like that though. And if you're interested in any of my gameplay footage of me playing this game, I'll have a link down in the description down below, or you can click on the card that will appear up on this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And of course, timestamps will also be in the description as well. And for parents out there, it is worth pointing out that Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is rated E for everyone, all ages, by the ESRB rating system though. Now, for me, my memories of, Donkey Kong goes back ranging from, the days of, the original Donkey Kong arcade game to, it being on the NES. But my biggest memories of it was, of course, the Donkey Kong Country games, though, released back in 1994, 1995, and 1996 by Nintendo and developed by Rare. Basically, in a way, it was kind of sort of reinventing or reintroducing Donkey Kong to a certain extent, though. It basically was a 2D game, but it had like 3D visuals in a way, and the way they promoted that game was basically they were using the same visuals that were used in movies like the original Jurassic Park and Terminator 2, Judgment Day and all. But in either case, though, those were considered fun platformer 2D type of games, though. It followed the formula a little bit closer followed the Mario formula to a certain degree, but it also had its different takes and everything. It didn't have like a high score or a timer on it. You also had basically, one hit and you lose one of your characters. You played as Donkey Kong, but you also played as his partner, like Diddy Kong. In Donkey Kong Country 2, it was Diddy and Dixie. Donkey Kong Country 3, it was Dixie and Kiddy Kong. And these were basically enjoyable, fun 2D platforms indeed. So it was kind of interesting back in 2010 during one of E3, back then E3 presentation that Nintendo did, was they showed off a brand new Donkey Kong Country game. And what was interesting at the time was that this game was being developed by Retro Studios, the same Retro Studios that handled before the Metroid Prime trilogy, Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3. And you know what? Donkey Kong Country Return was a fun game on the Wii and all, and this led to a sequel on the Wii U, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which again, good game, but just released at a bad time considering where Nintendo was with the Wii U and all. And of course, Donkey Kong Country Return will also be was also ported to the Nintendo 3DS. This was kind of similar to kind of what we saw with the original Hyrule Warriors, how that was released in the Wii U and that got ported to the 3DS or new 3DS at the time and everything. It also came with some new content here and there, but it was still a good game indeed. So it was kind of interesting in January 2025 when we finally got a new, we got a port of Donkey Kong Country Returns being ported over to the Nintendo Switch. This was prior to that year. Tropical Freeze was also ported over to the original Nintendo Switch and everything. And after spending times at Donkey Kong Country Returns HD and all, I will say that the game still holds up even after all these years and everything like that. With some minor stuff that I've seen with the Switch version, to be exact though, just to be clear, that I'm not 100% sure about though, but still not all for or anything like that. So I'm going to break this down into the pros and the cons. And we'll start off first with the pro, and that is the gameplay. The gameplay is very much a solid 2D enjoyable gameplay. It basically takes stuff that was in the original Super Nintendo Donkey Kong Country games, or takes certain elements of it and applies that into this new 2D game and all. You do, for those who are playing it as a single player game, you do control Donkey Kong, and of course if you find any of the DK barrels, you could basically have Diddy Kong who rides on Donkey Kong's back, and you can use his rocket pack to sort of guide over certain areas here and there, which this comes in really handy if you're trying to do certain jumps or trying to cross certain jumps. Indeed, you could still do, you know, the roll and then jump like you did like maybe in the original Super Nintendo Donkey Kong Country games, but Diddy Kong definitely comes in handy though. Those who are playing it in a co-op mode will be able to basically, one character controls Donkey Kong, one character controls Diddy Kong, and for the most part, most of their set moves are kind of similar, except for Diddy Kong, who has basically the peanut gun, which can be used, you know, to stun enemies here and there. Otherwise, it's, you know, finding like hidden secrets, you know, like bonus rooms. In this case, collecting puzzle pieces or the Kong letters and everything. If you're especially trying to be one of those completionists, or you know, trying to find everything in the game, including any of the hidden levels in the game, to be exact. So it follows that formula very well and all. And so from a gameplay perspective, the 2D gameplay is solid. One thing to point out is that the difficulty in the game follows the same route that New Super Mario Brothers Wii and New Super Mario Brothers U, or New Super Mario Brothers Re, or even Rayman Origins and Legends has done, which is basically a basically you know, have a very high difficulty and all. So yeah, I think the 2D gameplay holds up very well. The next thing I do want to talk about is that basically is the frame rate in the game. And for the most part, I will say, or at the very least based on my time with the game, is that the game holds up very well at basically, you know, 60 frames per second or anything like that. Now, there has been some videos pointing out, you know, Digital Family pointing out some drops here and there and all. As far as I'm aware of, at least, again, this is what I'm aware of though, I did not spot any frame rate drop or anything like that, or at least as far as what I've seen so far though. Nothing to be exact, so nothing really right there and all. And last but not least though, the other thing to point out is basically a lot of the content is basically from the 3DS version. That means you're getting like, you know, ranging from the hidden levels that basically or the extra hidden levels that were in the 3DS version are in basically the Switch 2 Switch version, to be exact. So really nice indeed that this is basically somewhat, you could say, argue more like an enhanced 3DS version to a certain degree. So it's basically all the hidden levels and everything, and that certainly is not a bad thing at all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, which is the con. So we'll take a little break, and we'll be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my video review of Donkey Kong Returns HD for the Nintendo Switch, also being played on the Switch 2 and all. So now that I gave you the pros, I'll start by giving off basically the cons and all. And there are only 3 cons I can think of based on my time with Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. The first one has to do with the content-wise. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that basically this game is like pretty much all the content from the 3DS version making its way over to the Switch 1 version and all, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing at all. However, if you're looking for any kind of new content, like maybe a skin for like Donkey Kong to look like what we saw with the recent release Donkey Kong Bonanza and everything like that, you're probably going to be somewhat disappointed because there's no real new content or anything for this version of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. This is kind of similar to when Hyrule Warriors was ported over to the Switch 1. Basically, all that was just an enhanced version of the 3DS version of Hyrule Warriors, and there's no real new content. It was just all the content from the 3DS version into like the Switch version, and that's pretty much what Donkey Kong Country Returns HD it is. It's all it is the content from the 3DS version into the Switch version. So that's not bad, but you're not going to expect any new content. It's brand spanking new content or anything like that if that was what you're hoping for. The other con I'll point out is that I'm somewhat mixed on sort of the command they have on the controls for basically Donkey Kong's pound ground. Now, Donkey Kong has two different kinds of moves though when he is standing still. If you duck, he can blow wind, which can come in handy for getting certain items and everything like that hidden behind the background, like blowing on a pinwheel or some daisy lines or anything like that. And the other one is a pound ground maneuver. And the thing about that one, at least depending on which control scheme you pick though, is that you have to push LR or one of the L buttons to do the pound ground, which is okay to be exact though, but I personally would have preferred if it was basically if they had the option to, similar to what we saw with, the original Donkey Kong, when you just push down and Y and all, and unfortunately that option isn't available, at least based on my time with Donkey Kong Country Returns. That's not to say the pound ground command doesn't work in the game. It does. It's just I'm a little mixed on some of the decisions they made. I was mixed when Aulx Studio did it with, if you were playing the game with the Wii remote on the side, you had to shake the Wii remote and all. And I am still a little mixed on the way this was set up on the 3DS and now also in the Switch version. So I'm a little mixed on the button setup for Donkey Kong's the pound ground command that he does though. And last but not least are the visuals of the game. Now obviously this game was released back on the Wii back in 2010, so I will say the visuals for the Switch version are okay. Obviously this game was handled by Forever Entertainment, which, let's just say, when it comes to porting certain games and all, the Switch ports of the games, their Switch ports of games have been mixed at best and all. That said, the port of the Switch version of Donkey Kong Country Return HD is not bad. It's good. I think the visuals are an improvement from the Wii and the 3DS version. And I certainly don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. The visuals look a lot cleaner than what was in the 3DS and the Wii version, so that certainly is good. However, when compared to, say, a game like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze that was released years later, I would say the visuals on that one look better than Donkey Kong Country Returns does. Not that Returns is bad, it's just, visually speaking, Tropical Freeze was the better looking 2D Donkey Kong game, to be exact. So yes, the visuals are okay. They are an improvement over the Wii and 3DS version, but not as good as Tropical Freeze version was. Overall, I would say Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, it's still a good game, and as someone who enjoys 2D platformers and all, it still holds up very well indeed though. Even if basically, even if there are some areas like Tropical Freeze on the visual side that looks better or something like that. At its best though, the 2D gameplay is still great, and it still is enjoyable, especially if you like 2D platforming and all. The game runs at 60 frames per second very well. Again, this is based on my time. I didn't respond anything major that popped out in any way. And you're pretty much getting all the content from the 3DS version though, which is certainly a good thing indeed. At its worst though, while it's great you're getting all the content from the 3DS version, if you're expecting brand spanking new content that you didn't find before though, you're not going to find that here or anything like that. I am a little mixed on Donkey Kong's pound ground command that they do, how he slaps the ground and everything like that. A little mixed on how the button setup is set up in a way. Again, doesn't make it unplayable, it's just a little mixed on how it's done. And of course, the visuals, again, I think they're okay and all. Like I said before, an improvement over the Wii and 3DS version, but not as good as Tropical Freeze. But in either case though, I still enjoy this game nevertheless, and it's still one I recommend, especially if you are a fan of 2D platformers and all. And with Donkey Kong Bonanza out right now, I do hope this sort of sets the stage for Nintendo to do a 3D Donkey Kong game and of course a 2D Donkey Kong game, much like how we have developers doing a 3D Mario game like the last one, which was Super Mario Odyssey, and a 2D Mario game like the last one being Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I do hope that we could see that down the line. And who knows, maybe if Donkey Kong Bonanza does very well, maybe those same folks can do a 2D Donkey Kong game or something like that. Time will ultimately tell if that happens, but in either case, I will say I did enjoy this one. Yes, there are some areas that I think Tropical Freeze does better, but Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is still a good port on the Nintendo Switch. As far as it on the Switch 2, again, plays well and everything like that. Just don't expect any, I didn't spot any sort of graphical enhancements or anything like that. But the game still holds up very well, nevertheless and all. Okay, this concludes my review of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD on the Nintendo Switch. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Donkey Kong Country Return and all? Did you enjoy the game when it came out on the Wii, or did you enjoy it when it was on the 3DS? Did you think the Switch version is good and everything like that? Do you think the game still holds up well even after all these years? And with Donkey Kong Bonanza out, would you like to see the same team, or at least have them open the door to the possibility of maybe a brand new 2D Donkey Kong game if that does happen? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal Me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, so you're watching this on YouTube or Patreon. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!